Welcome students. Today we are going to learn about the ex situ conservation, which is another type of conservation strategy in which the threatened species have been reared and preserved outside the natural habitats. That is, the threatened species have been taken out of their natural habitats and they have been reared, that is, they have been taken care of and preserved in artificially developed areas. So some of these conservation methods are, first is captive breeding. So here this is a process where the plants and animals have been maintained in a controlled environment, such as your wildlife reserves, zoos, your botanical gardens and other conservation facilities. So that means in this captive breeding process, the plants and animals have been kept in controlled environments. Examples we have already mentioned. Why they have been kept in this controlled environments is to restore the critically endangered species. That is, to restore the number of the critically endangered species, those organisms whose numbers are reducing at a faster rate and soon they are going to get threatened or they are going to be extincted. They have been kept in spatial areas, that is these controlled environments, so that their number can be maintained. Some animals which are become extinct in wild have been maintained in the zoological parks by captive breeding. It helps to restock the depleted population of animals. That means, if I'm going to give you one example of this, if you are going to go to Bhitarkanika, here these alligators have been, you can say, cultivated, or they have been taken, reared well. So here what happens, basically the young ones have been endangered, or you can say mostly the young ones are being eaten up by other organisms, or these eggs are not protected. So this eggs are been collected and they have been kept in spatial areas, like spatial wired areas have been created with small pools, and once the eggs have been hatched, from that the young ones have been incubated, and then after keeping them for a few days, they have been brought to the small pools. And because we do have the wires around it, so the other animals cannot enter into it to eat those animals. So when they have been grown into a standard size, then they have been left into the normal water body so that they can take care of them themselves. So that is called as your captive breeding. So those organisms which are here, we are going to take one example that if some organisms are going to become extinct in wild, that is when they will be in their natural habitat, then they may get extinct or their number is going to reduce highly. Those organisms have been brought and they have been kept in zoological parks, and in those parks we do have this captive breeding procedures have been followed, and it helps to restock the depleted population of the animals. Restock means, one more example we can take is this Nandankanan. So we do have a white tiger project running there. So what we have done is, in a wild environment, the number of white tigers have been reducing. So they have been brought and they have been reared or taken care of in a particular area. And by captive breeding, the way the organisms are going to reproduce and the safety of these young ones have been taken care of, so that the number of these white tigers has been increased. Quite a good number of tigers have been protected, and the number is also been increased by this captive breeding in Nandankanan. Next we are going to go for the next strategy, that is your zoos. These are the protected and enclosed areas which are developed to provide shelter to the wild animals. So basically these are considered as your recreations and the weekends. So the zoos are the protected and enclosed areas, that is they do have their own boundary walls. They have been protected, and why they have been meant for? They have been meant to provide shelter to the wild animals. So the wild animals have been brought and they have been kept in protected and enclosed areas. Main object of creating zoological parks is to create interest and curiosity among the people for animals. So basically why these zoos have been meant for? So that the people can visit, they can know the type of different animals, their names, their activities, their nature and their and all the details, so that it can create an interest within them and it can bring about curiosity among them for the animals. Various types of animals are kept here for their protection, their exhibition and study purposes. Why these animals have been kept here? So that they can be protected in this particular enclosed areas from other animals. Exhibition, so that people can see them, they can be exhibited, and so that sufficient information of these animals can be given to this public. And study purposes. Sometimes we also go for this experimental works, or we can go for this you can say scientific works also been done on them, like your taxonomic your this works can be explained to the people by keeping them in the zoos. So these are run either by the central government or by the state government. Nowadays the NGOs, that is your non-governmental organizations, are also taking care of it, or they are running these zoos. Next we are going to deal with the botanical gardens. So these are large artificially made natural surroundings where a large number of plant species have been kept. Here also we are going to make artificially natural surrounding has been made in which many type of species of plants have been kept. These are significant for their biodiversity. So here we are going to go for many varieties of these plants in this area. It acts as a huge library of plants. So we are going to get variable types of plants in this area. It provides shelter to the endangered species, materials for the botanical research, and spot education about the plants. So basically why these botanical gardens are been made, and what is the significance of this is, by having these botanical gardens we are going to provide the required environment for some endangered species. So whatever environmental conditions have been required for some endangered species, they can be kept in the botanical gardens by providing them artificial habitat. Materials for botanical research. So whatever as I was talking about, your taxonomical works are been needed, they can be done on these plants which have been available on these botanical gardens. Spot education. So like you will find in most of these botanical gardens, whatever plants have been grown, some tags have been attached to them which carries all the details of these plants, like what is the taxonomical hierarchy of this plant and all these details, and why it has been used, which part is important for which especially your medicinal plants, if you are going to consider, why they have been used for, and which part is useful for which disease. All these details have been mentioned so that spot education can be provided to the public. Basis for comparison of habitats of species. Here we can also compare the habitats, and we can habitats of different species which have been grown here. Next comes we are going to go for the next type, that is your fourth one is called as your cryopreservation. So here, what is cryopreservation? See, if you are going to talk about the cryopreservation, this is the fourth point. So what is cryopreservation? The structures we are going to take certain parts of the plants like seeds, pollen grains, your tissues and all, and this endangered species have been taken, and their parts like seed, pollen and tissue cultures have been taken, and they have been protected by storing them at a very low temperature. What is cryopreservation? Cryopreservation means any delicate part of the plant has been collected. It has been placed at a very low temperature. See, we may get it as a very short question. That is one more question. So here the key point will be a very low temperature, that is minus 196 degrees centigrade in liquid nitrogen. So these are the key points that you need to mention over here. So we are going to take this endangered species, and from them we are going to collect the seeds and the pollens and the tissue cultures have been taken from them, and then we are going to store them at a very low temperature of around minus 196 degrees centigrade, and with the help of liquid nitrogen we can keep it for a longer time. So it is based on the ability of certain small molecules to enter the cell and prevent the dehydration and formation of intracellular ice crystals, which can cause cell death and destruction of the cell organelles during the freezing process. So here what happens, we are going to preserve this plant materials at a very low temperature in the liquid nitrogen. So basically on what concept it has been based on? the ability of certain small molecules to enter the cell and prevent dehydration and formation of intracellular ice crystals. So basically, because of this cryopreservation, certain chemicals cannot enter into the plant body. So the prevention of this dehydration and intracellular ice crystals have been not been formed. If these are going to be formed, then they can cause the death and destruction of the cell organelles. So by abiding it, we are going to protect this plant parts for a longer time. Next comes wildlife safari. It is a safari park or wildlife park. So it is also a zoo-like commercial area where the commercial drive-in tourist attraction has been maintained. That means here basically in the zoo the animals are been kept in the cage, and from outside the public can view them. But in case of wildlife safari, the animals are allowed to move or roam freely, whereas the public or this tourist who want to see them are been kept in a lorry or some vehicle which has been closed. So they can see they can observe the activities of this. Free activities of this animals can be observed by this tourist. So we can define it as a zoo-like commercial drive in tourist attraction where visitors can drive their own vehicles or ride in vehicles provided by the facility to observe the freely roaming animals in their own habitats. So here the animals have been allowed to roam freely in their own habitats, but the ones or the tourists who want to observe them, they can drive their own vehicle or they have been allowed to move in a vehicle which has been provided by this management. It is larger than a zoo and smaller than a game reserve. It often refers to the trips to observe and photograph wildlife or hiking or sightseeing as well. So here basically why this wildlife safaris are important, because by going for this we can refer to the trips to observe. That means we can observe the wildlife from we can observe it very keenly, or from very less distance we can observe those plants and animals. We can take the photographs of them, and we can also see the natural sights also can be seen through that. Next comes seed banks. So what is the seed bank? So here you can consider this wildlife safari was the 5th point, and this is the 6th point. Seed bank is the 6th point. So the gene banks are all you will find the gene banks and the seed banks have been used interchangeably in most of these books. Gene banks are organizations that store genetic complements of as many living forms as possible in the form of seeds, pollens, ovules and tissue cultures, and frozen germplasm as ova or the sperm. What does it mean? In case of gene banks, we are going to store all the genetic materials, but which part of the plants have been collected? So the whatever genes have been present in the seeds and the pollen and the ovule, tissue cultures and the ovum and the sperm, we are going to collect all, and the germplasm, that is the total type of genes which have been present in the whole species, they have been preserved in the seed banks. It includes gene libraries. So we do have two types of the gene libraries. One is called as your in-house seed gene bank. Here what happens, basically here the seeds have been collected and then they have been dehydrated, and then they have been kept under the anaerobic conditions, that is in the special rooms at a temperature of minus 10 degree to 20 degree centigrade. So here what happens, we are going to take the seeds, we are going to get them dehydrated, that is we are going to dry them. In special rooms we are going to keep them, and these rooms have anaerobic conditions, and the rooms are maintained at a temperature of minus 10 degree to 20 degree centigrade. The seeds can be taken after several decades and made to germinate, forming plants to produce seeds. Here what happens, this in-house seed gene banks, from here we are going to collect the seeds after a few months, after several decades, Then we can show this seeds in the soil. We can grow the plants. Again we are going to collect the seeds and we are going to store them for few more decades. So it is a continuous process that after every 10 years or 20 years or few decades, we are going to collect the seeds and we are going to regrow the plants out of them, and then from them the healthier seeds have been collected and they have been kept for a longer time. And the second type of your seed gene bank is your field seed gene bank. It stores the plants for a short period. So if we are going to compare these two types of seed banks, the in-house seed banks are going to store the germplasm for a longer time than that of your field seed gene banks. Here what happens, we are going to take the plants. The plants have been grown in orchards, that is your fruit plants have been grown in a particular area which is called as your orchards, and all possible strains and varieties have been restored. So here what we are going to do, we are going to have orchids, and here all possible types of a particular plant or the different strains and varieties have been grown and they are also preserved. So here every year the new plants needs to be grown from the plant so that it can be maintained. Last is your tissue culture, which is the 7th point. So what is tissue culture? It is a technique to develop the cells, tissues or the organs in vitro, that is on artificial medium under the controlled aseptic condition. That means here it is a special technique which has been utilized for those plants which are specially hybrids and they cannot give rise to the new fertile plants. In those plants we can go for. In normal plants also we are going to go for this apical tissues, that is your tissues which have been present in the apex, maybe shoot apex or the root apex, and then from them we are going to grow million and million number of plants by using this tissue culture technique. So here we are going to take the artificial medium under controlled aseptic condition. So we are going to have these labs which are going to have aseptic condition. That means they will not allow any fungal infection. So it will be highly sterilized so that there won't be any fungal infection. And this artificial mediums means we are going to take this agar mediums with a nutrient so that the tissues can be grown on this. So especially what happens here, the multiplication of rare and critically endangered species of the plants can be done here. So what is been done? So a small part of the plant has been taken, which is from the apex of this plant, and then it has been grown in the nutrient medium, and this agar containing this nutrient medium will be taken, and then we are going to grow them, and each cell of it is going to give rise to a particular part of this plant, a particular plant. So whatever number of cells will be there in that tissue, those many number of plants can be grown out of it. So by going for tissue culture also certain parts of this critically endangered plants have been taken, and we are going to multiply them and we can rear them so that more number of plants can be restored. Thank you.